on the bank of the river stood running bear, young Indian brave. On the other side of the river stood his lovely Indian maid.
I'm gonna start a new wood carving project today. Here's some examples of stuff I've done before. In fact, that's pretty much everything I've ever done. Anyway, I decided to try a wooden Indian. Never carved anything but a wood spirit as far as a human figure before, so I'm going to see what I can do with that. And I'm going to have to go out and get me a log. Well, you can see it's late January, central Indiana. Kind of cold. In fact, it's been cold. It's been a really cold winter. Went out and cut me a cherry log the other day in the middle of a snowstorm. Brought it up here and been kind of waiting for it to warm up, but well, this says it's 10 degrees and it's the middle of the afternoon. It's supposed to be below zero the next couple days. And hey, this thermometer don't have any metric. That's great. Okay, let's check on this log. Like I said, I cut that the other day and just come up and parked it. It's too cold. And there it is. I need to probably get it off there, measure it, and then get that bark off of it and see what we got. Alright, let's see what we got to start with. Let's see here. Looks like about 11 inches on the small end. And shoot, about 12 inches on the other end. And we got a little bit of decay around the bark area here. We'll have to get that off. And then let's see. Yeah, we got a little bit right around there too, on the sapwood. That's fine. Let's see how long this is. 53 inches. And that's if I don't have to trim any for squareness or whatever. This is a wooden Indian, so there's one inside there somewhere. It's got to stand upright, so I got to have a square end. I guess next step is get the bark off, start thawing it out. Got the bark off and most of the sapwood. Took the bark off outside, but it's pretty darn cold, so I came in here and worked on it. It's pretty hard work for an old man. I need to get me an apprentice to do this stuff, but anyway. Looking at the log, I got me a little bit of a crack starting on the one end here. It goes down about 10 inches. I need to figure out how tall this is going to be so I can cut it off and then try to seal the end and keep that from progressing. Okay, I got the log almost finished for removing the sapwood, and I want to get all the mildew off of it as well. Been using the chisel and lightweight hammer. I tried a heavier one that just wears me out, so I went with the lighter one, using the side of it to keep from hitting my hand quite so often. Anyway, I want to get a coat of tung oil on this thing tonight to keep it from drying out too fast, because it's starting to crack everywhere. If I don't get after it, it's going to be no good. It's supposed to get 17 below zero tonight here, and that air is really dry. Check in later. Oops. Got a knot. Been trying to clean it out, see how deep it goes. I'm not sure what I can do with that. not in a good spot. It's right where the head was going to be. Depends on if it goes, it looks like it's going in at an angle, which makes it worse. I'm going to dig it out and see how far it goes, see if I can work around it or not. Stay tuned. Okay, here's what I decided to do with that large knot. I decided to flip the log over and put that knot at the bottom in the base. The base is going to be about 11 inches up from the bottom, and it's going to be there for, you know, for weight. And I'm going to carve the word Cigars on it, stuff like that. I spent a considerable amount of time getting the bottom flat. In fact, make it a little bit concave so it'll sit on the floor without rocking or moving it, and be pretty plumb. And I got another knot about a quarter of the way down on the right hand side. You can see it's about 1 inch diameter, and hopefully I can get a carve around that. This wooden Indian's got to sit inside this log, so I'm going to have the arms folded and then holding some cigars, because cigars for Indian. The pose is going to be about like this, with this being the front of the log. And I spent a lot of time studying this log to decide to do that, and to get the best out of the wood. And again, there's a knot right here that hopefully I can miss that when I carve it. In order to carve this log comfortably, I went ahead and made a cradle out of scrap wood, and that way I can get it up to a good working height, and it'll be much better for, you know, I'll be carving on this quite a while, so it'll be more comfortable. Also, I'm going to have to trim that log and square it up so I can, you know, sketch the figure on it, and also take some weight off of it, because that log right now weighs 115 pounds. Okay, this is pretty cool. I got, you probably can't see it, but I got the rectangle sketched out on the top of the log here. And I got the yardstick on there to hang a plumb bob down so I can get it straight up and down. I want to decide where this plane is all the way down so I can use my reciprocating saw and slice that off of there. Now, it's an irregular log, so that line's going to run everywhere depending on where the surface is and so forth. So I projected a light, got a light hanging on the rack there, and maybe you can see the shadow running down the log. I'm going to take a magic marker and I'm going to mark where that is. It looks crooked as a dog's hind leg, but when you line it up this way, it's gone. It's a straight line, straight up and down that way. So I'll do that on both sides, and that way I can keep that little sliver lined up and come out with a flat plane when I'm done sawing. Hopefully it'll work. We'll see. Okay, I got this log pretty square, rectangular. It's cut to the outside dimensions of the figure. I got the center line marked, and I got certain key places like the shoulder and chin and different places marked. And that knot is going to be in the figure, so I'm going to have to fix it. I got a plan. I'll explain that in a minute. Had another knot on the back, which I fixed already. All I got to do is slice it off. I cut me a piece out of same material, which is cherry wood, and kind of made it in the shape of a knot so it wouldn't stand out so bad, and a square one wouldn't look so good. So cut it that shape, and then I took a router, cut it down about 1 inch deep to get rid of that knot, and then I glued that into place. Now all I got to do is slice it off flush, and that should be fixed. For this knot, I'm going to have to make me a dowel rod, because I don't think you can buy one out of cherry wood, so I'm going to make one. I'm going to drill that hole 7/8, and that's about 1.5 inches deep still. And it's at a 45-degree angle, so I got to cut this dowel so that it matches the grain. It's got to run the same direction as the rest of the wood, just like I did on this one. That one had to run up and down with the rest of the wood. Anyway, we'll have to make a jig or something to make this dowel with, so that's next. Okay, I made me a little contraption here to try to make me a little dowel rod. This is not the right kind of wood, but just to show you, I'm going to cut me a piece of cherry wood about this size, and then I'm going to glue it to this handle here like that. This is made out of 2-inch angle iron, bent everywhere, and 3/8 inch all thread. Ground me a nice point on there for a tailstock. Even got me a tool rest. So what I'll do, got a rubber band on here to keep that trigger down. Got my American made probe and my made in China hammer. Try to split me off a piece here, make that dowel rod with. This is some kind of winter we're having. Anyway, I wanted to show you how my homemade wood lathe is worked out. Not too bad once you get the piece rounded. Anyway, not quite round on the end yet, but this is real difficult to cut because the grain's running this way, which is what I want. I got it glued to the mandrel here, so that seems pretty stout, and it's working out all right. Just got to get it down to 7/8. All right, got this knot ready to fix. Drilled it out 7/8. Of course, I'm homemade lathe. I made a dowel for it. Point should match best I could. I'm gonna glue that in there, and this mandrel good for next time. That just come right off with a chisel. Scrap. By the way, I forgot to mention that this wooden Indian is going to be a woman, and I needed a model for that, so I picked a famous 1950s pinup girl to use as a model, and trying to convince my wife this is art, not porn. Basically though, the way you do it, I made a printout of a photograph, and I'm measuring obviously many dimensions, and I downloaded a whole stack of pictures to get every angle I could. And the way you do this is I'm measuring the actual dimension off of this drawing, and I got, for example, the overall height, and I'm trying to make a 30-inch carving, so I want to ratio that to 30 inches. And so you do that, and I get a factor of 3.16 to 1. So for every dimension I've measured off of this drawing, I'm on a multiply times 3.162 and record it here, and then from that I can make the actual to scale drawing. I've done it for the face and many other angles, but I've got sort of a composite of all these drawings that I've put together here on the wall. I've kind of got a profile view and a front view. The front view is more important because that's where all the detail is, and I've got a center line marked on there, which I'll transfer to the wood, and then I'll use carbon paper to trace this outline on the actual wood, so I've got a pattern from which to carve, and we'll have to see how it works out. You know, since we got all this global warming and everything, I thought I ought to document what winter looks like. 'Cause it's pretty darn cold here. Let's take a look out here. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of snow. Actually, we're getting a lot of snow. Supposed to get 11 inches. Guess we're on the way. I got that thing trimmed down to 63 pounds now, so it's manageable. I think I can handle that. I still got a knot to repair on the back inside the base, but I got a plan for that. Cover that later. I got the outline sketched on the back. Basically, I transferred that from the drawing I made using carbon paper. I want to try to keep that back plane flat and carve it last, because I might need it for a reference point sometime. Got the outline on the side of it, and also on the front. Got the sketch on there, and I'm about ready to start carving on it now. I put the outline on both sides so that I gotta keep the cut lines straight for the best I can. So now I think I'll start with the top and work down. I'll put it back in the cradle now and start working on it. Okay, I've been carving for quite a while now. You always start with the face, because that's where all the time and effort and detail is. And that way, if you mess that up, then you haven't got all your time invested in all the rest of it. You just quit. Been using mainly the tools on the left there, although I use all kinds of tools, but mainly those, and a pocket knife and a chisel, small chisel. At some point you're gonna carve away your pattern, so I made some cardboard outline just to keep straight where I'm at. It wouldn't be good to have the nose in the wrong place, and the eyes have to be exactly right, and that way I can keep it lined up. Check in later. Thought I'd better give an update on the Indian. Been carving the face and a little bit of the hair. Don't have it textured or anything yet. I'm kind of waiting for this hair extends on down through here, so I thought I'd wait until I free that up a little bit before I do any detail on the hair. When you do the eyes, I make sure they wrap around the side a little bit, and then kind of carved out the iris, made it recess the iris, and left the pupil about where the surface of the eyeball is. And to sand it, that area, I found on the internet, some guy took a popsicle stick and taped or glued a piece of 200 grit sandpaper around it. Now I kind of feathered that edge down before I did that to make a sharp edge there, and you can get right in there where you need to get and sand. The eyebrows are just drawn in. I may end up having to paint them to make them stand out, because they need to. Now the next is I'm going to have to get on to the next area, which is the chest area, and I'm going to use a router to rough a lot of this in, because it's less detailed in the face and the head part, and I can make a lot of progress that way. Just an example, I'm going to router around this arm and go in about 1 inch, and it's not going to interfere with any of the other details here. You got plenty of room to do that, and that's just one example. I'm going to do the back and some different areas, but that'll be next. Just a quick update. Been doing a little cutting, and just wanted to do a progress report before we get much further. This is of course, the arm holding cigars, and this is the original surface, but it's going to curve down just a little bit, and this hand will be recessed about 1/2 inch, and then the fingers are actually like wrapped around the cigars, so they're going to be sloping down and wrapping underneath actually. So make sure I've got it true to the sketch. I've left a piece of the wood on here just to make sure I've located it right. That's the top of the cigars, and it's important to stay true to the sketch you made originally, otherwise it's not going to come out the way you thought. According to my weather rock, which is wet, it's raining.
Right now that is I can see that coming. Yeah, it's supposed to go like this. According to my weather rock. You right out there in it.
He didn't want any part of it. Got the torso finished. Just need to texture the hair, and then I think I'm going to go ahead and finish the upper torso from here to here, and that way it'll stop drying out and won't crack so bad. Once again, I'm going to paint the eyebrows, the eyes, and eyeliner, and the hair black, and we'll see how that turns out later. Alright, I got to a point where I got tired of this thing cracking up in the upper half, so I decided to go ahead and finish it. To get to this point, I've used a rasp to shape everything, then a bastard file, then 60-degree grit, sandpaper, then 100 grit, then 220. And then to do the hair, the texturing, I used a V-tool. You can buy it at any woodworking store. I used a 60-degree tool, and just a minute after I just got the last cut done, dropped it on the floor. Now it's going to take me an hour to put the edge back on it. Anyway, I'm done with it for this one. Also, I had to repair a pretty bad crack on the side here on the shoulder using Elmer's glue. You fill it with Elmer's because you need the structural strength in addition to just filling it. And it takes several coats in that crack to fill it up because it continues to shrink as it dries. So before you let it dry overnight, you put layer after layer in there about every half an hour until it's finally filled up. And then when it's all dry overnight, come back and you shave that down flush with a razor blade, because sandpaper doesn't give you a good finish on this material. It's kind of rubbery because it's kind of a plastic stuff. But then you sand the wood right up to the edge of it and it comes out pretty good. For the paint, I used kind of a brown transparent paint for the cigars. It's a latex paint, and it's designed for an airbrush, but it's transparent, so it comes out, looks just like walnut. Really nice look to it. And then for the gold class, I used another airbrush paint. You have to shake this really good to get the gold flake suspended, but it turned out pretty good. Then for the hair paint, I used a glossy black paint. This paint is a little bit thick, so you have to be careful with it. And using that, the brush I use is just a foam brush. Then for the lips, I used a red acrylic, and it's called lipstick red, which is appropriate. Then for the whites of the eyes and for the teeth, I didn't want something too pronounced, so I used another transparent paint designed for an airbrush, and put that in there. Then for the eyes, which is the most important part of the whole thing, I used a Scripto ultra fine marking pen to do the eyebrows and the eyeliner. And I mentioned in a prior video that the irises are recessed and the pupils still at the surface of the eye. I didn't do anything with the irises except color it with the urethane itself. No stain or anything like that. Then I painted the pupil, the same glossy black paint that I used for the hair. And then I come back and I put a one small dot of model airplane paint using a toothpick on the side of the pupil. It's in the upper left-hand corner. Just barely see it, but it makes a huge difference in the look of the eye. Next is continue on with the rest of the project, and I'll probably cover this end of it up, and then do the rest of the figure later. I decided to fix that knot in the back of the base here, and first thing I want to do is fill it up with some filler here that I made, and this is about 50% Elmer's glue and 50% sawdust right out of my table saw. Now put that in there real quick. I'm not going to use this, I'm not going to try to finish this. I'm just needing something to fill the cavity with. And then I'm going to come back and machine that out or down to get a flat surface. Okay, I've got 2 1/2-inch strips made out of 1/4-inch poplar, and glued them to the base. And then I made a template out of the same thing, 1/4-inch poplar, and I drew an oval on there using a template biggest I could make, but then I needed a bigger one to clean up the hole. So I'm going to shave this flat enough to glue the template to the 2 strips, and then I'm going to drill a pilot hole in this piece and router it out to where it's about 3/8 thick or 3/8 deep at the thin edge, so it cleans up the hole. And then I'm going to chisel this all off, and it'll clean up again, resanded and stuff. And this template I'll use again to sketch the same exact outline that I machined onto a plug made out of cherry, and then I'll glue it into the hole, which should be a perfectly flat bottom, and support it while it's drying, and hopefully fill it good. We'll see how it turns out.
Well, your pet name for me is Squall. When you come home, a drinking and can barely crawl, and all that loving on me won't make things right. Well, you leave me at home to keep the teepee clean, a 6-pound food just to break and wean. Well, your Squall is on the warpath tonight. Well, I found out a big brave chief, the game you're a hunting for ain't beef. Get off of my hunting grounds and get out of my sight. You don't need no more of what you've already had. Just was on the warpath tonight.
Okay, it's going to be a top left and right on this thing when you draw it on your piece, so make sure you mark it. And also there's the top left and right. And make sure the piece you're going to put back in is like that. It's the outside of the log, so that grain's going to be that way and then run like this. So just put that on here and try to hold it steady and draw that oval in there. Now you just got to cut it out. Use some locks of glue so it'll fill in any gaps, hopefully. For now, just probably end up doing a sand on everything later, but for now that's good. Okay, I made a pattern using PowerPoint on the computer and then just printed it out, made it the actual size I wanted. Then I traced it onto the wood, carved it out with a knife, and the letters are raised about 1/8 of an inch. Can't go much higher than that without making them weak, because the wood won't take it. I'll be painting this background black later, and probably I'll paint the letters gold, but I'm not ready for that yet. I'm gonna start cutting in the midsection first and then come back and finish this later. Roughing in the profile, you can see the line I'm following right here, and you don't want to be coughing all night. I suggest you wear a mask. I got the outline roughed in, the profile view, and then also the front view. And now it's just a matter of cutting out the loincloth front and back, and then I can round all the edges and shape it, and then it's just sanding. So getting close. Well, finally finished my cherry wood Indian. Put a coat of tung oil on it after I got through sanding, and then 3 coats of clear gloss polyurethane after that. Seal it up. Then I kind of needed something to set off them cigars a little bit more, so I went found me some cigars at the cigar store and smoked them. They were awful, but at least I got the bands, put them on there. Started this project in late January. Now it's late August, so about 7 months. But I'm guessing I probably got 500 hours in it. Couldn't work on it full time or anything. Started out that cherry log, just the heartwood, weighed 115 pounds when I started. Now it's down to 40 pounds. So not too bad. Anyway, it's done.
Elijah was a wooden Indian standing by the door. He fell in love with an Indian maid over in the antique store. Elijah just stood there and never let it show, so she could never answer yes or no. He always wore his Sunday feathers and held a tomahawk. The maiden wore her beads and braids and hoped someday he'd talk. Elijah, too stubborn to ever show a sign, because his heart was made of knotty pine. Oh, Elijah, he never got a kiss. Oh, Elijah, he don't know what he missed. Is he any wonder that his face is red? Elijah, that poor old wooden head.